All right, guys, welcome to What Do You Collect? So we're going to be talking Pokemon. We're going to be talking about Slam Magazine. We're going to be talking about physical cards. We're going to be talking about digital claw games. Guys, it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. What do you collect?
What do you collect? Show me your collection. You're my one of one. You're my kind of obsession. My big break.
All right, welcome, guys. How's everybody today? How we feeling? Here we go.
Great.
Yeah. Good.
Great.
Thanks for making it. So we're just going to... Thank you, guys. We're just going to jump around. We could start right out talking about Slam Magazine with Austin Kent here. I know you're a big collector. Want to know just a little bit about how things are going over at Slam. What are some of the new things coming out and coming up for the season?
Yeah, it's definitely a fun time at the magazine. You know, the magazine, we just had our 30th anniversary, so it's like there's new things happening, but it's quite an established brand. The print magazine, which is what it was known for the first 20 years, has sort of evolved in this new landscape. And some of the most recent things that are really exciting for us is just how many people are, buying the magazine, not necessarily to flip through it like they used to do back in the day, but just to keep it mint, keep it as a collectible. And so over the last few years, we've really tried to lean into sort of helping guide the product in this way to actually really celebrate, Slam as a collectible. It's such at least on the basketball landscape, it's such a pop culture landmark that we really want to do our best to be able to present that in a way that collectors can, show them off. The whole purpose of the brand has sort of evolved and it's changing, and it's just a fun thing to be a part of. And it's really exciting to see, this magazine industry sort of morph into what I grew up, collecting cardboard in terms of getting these things graded. So it's a lot of things. I'm sure we can dig into them, but we've been offering serial numbered, embossed, special limited edition metal versions of the covers. So you can buy one off the newsstand, or you can buy a serial numbered limited edition version. And we've just seen more collectors grading them, more collectors buying and selling them, on secondary markets. And it's really fun to watch this nascent market sort of take shape. So I'm excited to chat about it with all you guys.
That's awesome. Yep. Oh, it's true. I've been seeing you guys at the trade shows. I was at Fanatics Fest. Saw, a whole booth you guys had set up there. It's just great to see, how many types of collectibles that are out there and how big these industries are going. As we know with the Pokemon cards, Sean, you want to tell us a little bit about another collectible, which is just obviously off the charts in these last coming years?
Yeah, of course. So particularly since the years of COVID, the amount of Pokemon cards that have been printed is just went absolutely through the roof. Obviously, during the pandemic, there was a reduction in resources. Factories were shutting down. Cards weren't able to print, and simultaneously, there was a surge in demand. And even right now, we're approaching the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, which is just absolutely insane to think. And we're sort of in a state where here in the UK and the US, Pokemon cards, you just cannot get hold of them. The days of kind of walking into a newsagents, a corner store, a grocery store, something like that, and being able to pick up a pack, they're gone for the moment. And I don't see this slowing down certainly before 30th anniversary. The wheels in full motion, and kind of going off what you were saying there about as a kid having these cardboard items, it's just a whole different ballgame. Thinking back to when I first started collecting these cards, something like this, like a PSA slab, it wasn't a thing to my knowledge. It wasn't something that I was considering. I used to keep these things in an elastic band in my shorts pocket, and here we are all these years later, where some of these cards are worth more than houses, and people were all of a sudden thinking of these things as investments and assets. And the days of cardboard to a certain extent they're been and gone. We're now looking at a completely different form of collectible, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
It's cardboard, and people use paper to buy them, or plastic. So I mean, listen, it's all it's just a great collectible as we've seen over the years. Just really for that 30-year span, as you're saying, just how far it's come is just amazing. Bringing us to our next guest, Andrea of Beezie.io. Just want to talk a little bit about, for example, these Pokemon slabs. Is this something that's related to Beezie that you want to tell us about?
Yeah, it is. It's been so interesting watching the evolution of not only collectibles, but how collectibles are bought, sold, and traded. And, Beezie's at the forefront of that. So we are a platform that tokenizes the assets, put them on chain, but we really abstract the blockchain part out of it so that anyone can come on our marketplace or interact with the platform. We've seen devastating losses happen in the world of collectibles, whether we're talking about fires, floods, different natural disasters. And there's a real conversation around, self-security and self-storage. And I think when you do have that large of a collection, it's something that really needs to be top of mind, whether we're talking about insured value or where you're storing these assets. That's part of our conversation with Beezie. Whether we're talking about Pokemon cards that are slabs, sealed product, we tokenized Labubus recently. We have, Grail sneakers. We're really a multi-category marketplace that caters to collectors in general. But, just the conversation around the evolution of how a collectible goes from consumer A to consumer B is continually evolving and ongoing and really, really fun.
That's true. That's awesome. We're going to come back to talk more of Beezie and just some of the fun stuff you guys have going on there. And Mark, from MyCardPost, you want to tell us a little bit about the amazing marketplace website you have, for collectors, by collectors, and exactly what's on there. As we're talking here with so many collectibles, I do know from your site there are just a ton on there. So thank you for joining the show, and just want to enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have, kind of all categories of cards on MyCardPost. So MyCardPost it's a subscription-based marketplace. We're really building a community of collectors that can do any kinds of deals with each other. So, be it buying, selling, trading, multi-card deals, opening themselves up to the community that they're wanting to buy certain types of cards. And we're doing a lot of matchmaking between buyers and sellers, just trying to connect people together that want to do deals together. But it's just really interesting to hear about, you got 30-year history in Pokemon and Slam Magazine, and just how many things have like historical meaning to people and the different types of collecting that people want to do. I mean, I even did like a limited edition hoodie that had serial numbers on it recently, and I'm like, well, I'm going to preserve one as just a collectible, right? I mean, there's just so much in this space, and happy to be here, but it's exciting to see the different categories like kind of ebb and flow, and what has typically been very high in sports cards collectible. We're seeing all of these different categories of explosion, whether it be Pokemon or V-Friends or just magazines. So it's pretty exciting times.
And as far as on MyCardPost, there is a wide variety. I mean, pretty much what kind of collectibles are listed there right now that anyone could go on and take a look and maybe they could come across?
Yeah, anything. I mean, any sort of category of trading cards. So we focus on trading cards, right? So it's raw graded cards. There's some sealed wax on there too, but it's any category. So it's all major sports. Like I said, Pokemon, V-Friends, Magic the Gathering, Disney, wrestling. You name it. If there's a collector for the category, they're on MyCardPost right now, and we're only a little over 2.5 years since we've launched this thing. So we're still in the early days on our side here.
Okay, and is everything on the site graded, or is it? Again,
it's just like it's subscription based. So if you're a collector and you want to make deals with like-minded collectors, you can subscribe and list your cards. So whether they're graded cards or raw cards, any grading company, it doesn't matter. So all different.
Gotcha. And it's easy to contact other buyers on there, traders and sellers. Is it like basically just makes that an easier step just to get in contact? Because sometimes that's collecting physical. That's the hardest part. You could be completing a set and you have a limited amount of resources. You check your card shops, you check some shows, but if you can't find something, it's hard. You search in the internet, and is that something that it's easy to contact other collectors on MyCardPost and just kind of get them able to see what they have in their collection?
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing a lot of things around that. I mean, first and foremost, you can list your inventory that you have available for sale or trade, and you can think of your, individual page on MyCardPost as your home base, so it's like, hey, here's all the cards I have to move. It's a single URL that's dedicated to you. You can share that amongst any different social media channel or whatever it may be. And someone's saying like, hey, what do you have available? Like maybe you see a card on Facebook that you want to take down, and someone's like, well, I'd be open to trading, but what do you have? You could just send them your MyCardPost link, and there's all your available inventory that someone can go look and browse and be like, well, I would make a deal for, those 5 cards or whatever it may be. But we're also doing stuff around the personal collections. We're building a whole new space around giving people a place to upload their personal collection. These aren't cards that are for sale or for trade. It's just a way for you to kind of have and organize your own personal collection online that you can keep private if you'd like for yourself, but also to be able to share publicly and to be able to browse other people's collections and engage in conversations around the cards. And, hear the story behind the cards, whether it be some sort of special moment with their kids or, some amazing grail card that was pulled out of a blaster pack at Walmart. There's all these different stories out there. So giving people a place and a forum to tell those stories is going to be some pretty exciting, evolutions on the platform for us.
For sure. I love that as far as that's what brought me here at the moment. It's telling stories of collecting, why people collect certain things, some of the fun rips you've had, or discoveries in your in your life of collecting and your experiences. So that's great. It's great to share these stories and just kind of see what means something to one collector and maybe it doesn't mean anything to the next. It's just this is a great episode here where we're just combining so many different forms of collecting, which just to see it expand is great. Over the last couple of years, like we were saying, since COVID, there's just been, I guess, a reconnecting to these kind of collectibles that are out there. Austin, some collectibles with Slam Magazine, you have a personal favorite or something that of yours, with the limited mints that are out there that you collect and that you're excited about, maybe something coming out that people should be looking out for?
It's been very exciting. We've as basketball fans, as basketball collectors, it's been a very interesting few years with some of the recent players who've debuted on the scene. Cooper Flag, being all the rage this year, of course. But not long ago, we had Victor Wembanyama and we had Caitlin Clark. And so really, as Slam has leaned into making available these serial numbered mags, we've also just had these major headliners that have really, their name alone just injects so much excitement into the hobby, right? So to be able to not just pull like a limited, not just like to get your hands on a limited edition like Slam Mag, but it's Caitlin Clark's first appearance on the sort of basketball, the preeminent basketball publication, the Basketball Bible, whatever you want to call it. Caitlin Clark's first time appearing on the cover of that. It's just such a significant moment for basketball fans. So it's kind of been neat to see all these things firing at the same time. We just started working, I think 2 years ago with CGC. They grade comic books, right? So I'm used to the world of PSA as a sports card guy. But I guess just by the nature of it being like the magazine, it was the sort of comic book industry that started grading these slams. So it's like a whole different grading scale. I'm getting used to 9.8s and 9.6s and 9.4s. It's different for me. But at the same time that all this exciting stuff is happening around Slam and around grading magazines in general, it's just been a great time to be a keen basketball collector just because of some of the personalities that we've now seen popping up. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. I know one of the early stories that I connected to Slam Magazine was a while back with 1996. I know I always remember with Allen Iverson, I believe being one of the first to be on Slam Magazine as a college player. As I know, usually it's from before that, it was all, professional athletes. But I think after someone from Slam saw him scoring 60 points in the second half of a game at Georgetown, was like, this guy has to be on the cover of Slam Magazine. I know it's a big collectible, that 96 one, because I think it was just an East Coast distribution or something like that, because they were orange.
It was a double cover. But Slam was always I started reading Slam when I was 9 years old. They've always been so ahead of the game at sort of identifying the players to watch, and in some ways kind of being the kingmaker to decide what the players to watch are. But we had Paige Beckers was on the cover of Slam in high school. She's just this gangly teen from Minnesota, and she was on the cover as a high school student. And so it's when you have a brand that can sort of make a statement like that, and then when it pays off, it's just really exciting, because now, instead of waiting, for somebody to pop up on the scene and they're already a professional athlete, you just have this classic from when they're, just so fresh on the scene. So Slam has had that with a couple of players. Obviously, I remember reading about LeBron James when he was in grade 10 or 10th grade, in the cover, in the pages of Slam. So it's really neat to, when you approach it just as a sports fan yourself, if you're hey, this Cooper Flag guy is going to go down as one of the greatest of all time, I'm going to go out and he declared that he was going to Duke on that Slam cover. That's such a significant moment.
So really,
Cooper Flag is your guy. That's
I know, that's
right?
Yeah, I said, what a press conference, that was. You're revealing your team bought Slam Magazine. I mean, it's just, an iconic moment. That moment itself should have been on the magazine.
Right.
It just goes to the cultural aspect of these collectibles, right? Like there's a significant story about that magazine, that cover, that moment that's going to last hundreds of years, and
Absolutely.
it's, that's what smart people are wanting to collect these things and preserve them, keep them in good condition, and be able to tell those stories for years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very true. Going back to the 30 years about, as we were talking about when Iverson back in the 90s, we know the Pokemon cards, started, 30 years ago, as Sean was telling us. But I know, as he has a bunch of great YouTube videos out about, the Pokemon cards he collects and what's coming out. You want to tell us a little bit about like the new stuff that you said that has come out over the last couple of years, and just some of the values of them, where you would say, something maybe was meaningful 30 years ago, but doesn't necessarily translate to the value. There's some stuff that's coming out, in the last couple of years as, that basically could be worth more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the very early days of Pokemon, the very first set was called Base Set, and it was a very simple set at the time. It consisted of very limited amount of cards, what we call secret rares. Now in a set, you could be looking at about 80 secret rares to one set. Back then, you're lucky to see one or two in a single set. One of the sets that I remember vividly as a kid was the Team Rocket set. And it featured on the sort of bad guys within Pokemon, or the supposedly bad guys in Pokemon. And recently, Pokemon created another set, which is Destined Rivals, which we've got a box of here. And to no surprise, to be honest, this has been hugely popular. This released back in February. And here in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, is very difficult to get a hold on. So retail price over here in the UK for a box of this is about £150. Translates to roughly about $220. And already, for a set that's already in print, it will continue to be in print for what I'd imagine at least a year, if not a couple. It's selling for in upwards of double the value, pretty much. And that's for a set that is still in production. There's no sign of it dying out just yet. Another set that was hugely popular back in 2021, and since then, is Evolving Skies. And one of the cards from that set, the sort of chase card from that set, is a card called Umbreon. And for just a raw copy, not graded copy, you could be looking upwards of $1,000, about $1,300 for a raw card. And there's cards from the base set, the first couple of years of Pokemon, that you could have a graded slab in a PSA 10, and they wouldn't reach anywhere near that value. And I think for that card in particular, that was almost unheard of, because it sort of introduced not just old school Pokemon cards that are no longer in production, but also more modern sets. And it's sort of brought them forward into the asset category, if you like. And we're now seeing people, every time a new set comes out, sort of making an informed decision as to whether they think this is a set that potentially in 10, 15 years' time, could it be worth something? And with Pokemon in particular, anything they've released over the past few years has actually gone up in value. Some take a little bit longer, some will go up a little bit quicker. But for the most part, there's not really a set where if you were to buy a booster box and hold on to it for a year, 2 years, you're going to get your value back from whatever you paid for that booster box, which is pretty insane, to be honest.
Wow, yeah, that's true. I mean, how many times you're buying a box and, you open it up, you get maybe a tenth of the value of what's in there. But sometimes, with Pokemon, it kind of seems like if you buy the boxes, might as well just hold on to them and just kind of see, what the market translates to. And I guess if it becomes something based on the rarities that's in there, the price could go up. There's so many times after a box has come out and you see that, okay, the couple of those grail items haven't been discovered yet. The price goes up because everyone's thinking, all right, I might get, that might be me who's the next one buying that box. So it's definitely a great tip to kind of hold out on some of those boxes if you can, because I know that sometimes when there's packs and boxes lying around and it's a boring night and you're looking at that box, I mean, anything can happen.
I'm that guy.
What I would say is, for something like this, like I got this sort of like plastic container to keep it in to kind of quell that urge of open it up, if you will. But I just love the look of this set so much, and I know that the cards that are sitting on my desktop gathering dust probably won't look as nice as this box right now. So that also kind of keeps me holding on to the box as opposed to opening it.
You know what? They need to make one of those with like an expiration lock on that. You know, that way you can set it for like 60 days or something. That's what I might need one of those. But that's really cool. That's a great tip on that. And speaking of the graded Pokemon, Andrea, if you want to tell us a little bit about some of the big items that have been coming out of Beezie, and for somebody who was maybe looking, for maybe not looking to buy a box, what can they do on Beezie, as far as Pokemon goes, and some of the cards graded cards you have?
Well, it's a good lead into the conversation because I feel like, when you have that box in front of you, it's the dopamine chase, right? It's like you're so desperate to not open it, but you so badly want to because it's that moment of what if, right? Like, what if I get the hit? And that's kind of the activation that we built with our claw machine. Yes, we have, your standard marketplace where it's really easy to buy, sell, and trade your collection. I think what's really interesting is you don't have to worry about currency conversions. So if you're a US collector and you want to sell to a buyer in Tokyo, make it super easy and seamless. But the claw mechanic is our answer to any marketplace's cold start problem, right? It's like, how do you get people in the door as a startup, as a new marketplace? And the claw is filled with hits every day. It's 24/7. It's ongoing. It's all dynamic. So you can go in at any time and see what the chase items are in there, what the expected value is. I think the other day we were running like an EV of 57 on a $50 claw. So we like to change that up here and there and let the community have fun with it. But, recently we've had like Bubble Muse in there. We've had Felt Pikas, we've had everything. You can go on and see the activity and what people are pulling, but it's just, I have so much fun when I'm kind of a fly on the wall in the team sourcing conversations and seeing, oh, this just went up like crazy in the last 30 days. We got it 45 days ago. We got a good price. Here's the margin. My business mind is happy. Right. But it's just, it's fun to find the grails that we know people are going to want and load the claw up with that. And we get a ton of feedback from our community. I think that's one of the things that separates Beezie from, now GameStop and PSA's Power Packs or some of the bigger companies, is that it's a really tight-knit community. They've been building with us since day one. So they really have been able to give us great insight and product feedback. And a lot of the things you see on our platform are a direct correlation of conversations we've had with our community.
No, true. I love the it's so much fun. I mean, the claw game just brings it back to, arcade style of, obviously randomizing what, your rip is going to be. You're basically pulling out, an arcade ball, out pops, your graded card. It's just a great process. And just really say, like, as a product, you guys did a great job with that. Like, it just brings, a lot of creative and hard work you could see that goes into the experience. And, the experiences, are always those, unforgettable moments with collecting, who you bought your first pack with, who you did your first trade with, you kind of, those experiences stay with you with collecting. And, that to me is what's exciting about, a lot of the products. And with digital, and what's great about it with the digital and physical aspects, it's the way you can access the communities. And that's what's also great, Mark, with, MyCardPost, is how you're able to keep a community online and at the same time collect physical. Because a lot of times before, that we were able to, your products that you guys have, you used to buy something in a, local hobby shop. Your community was the 3 kids sitting in there, or, ripping packs, and the guy behind the counter. Like that was it. It was hard to, like, you were one of them. I know, that's it. I think we all might have been one of them, but yeah. I think it's, it's something that, the community really, with the advancement of just the internet, and as far as what your products that you have, is just great. What could you say about the community that's on MyCardPost, and just kind of what they've been developing, and kind of saying, like, are the hot items, and basically how are they driving the product?
Yeah, I mean, I love Andrea's point about, you're building a community, you're growing a community, they're in it with you, you're building in public, you're sourcing their feedback, and like they want to be a part of it, and they feel like they're a part of this. What I aspired to build was basically, somewhat of a replication of the local card show experience, right? Where, you go, you meet people, you browse their tables, you get creative in the types of deals that you want to do. You're conversing with them about cards, you're finding like-minded people, you're making friends, and then you're building relationships that extend beyond just the cards. And so that's really what I aspired to build, was to try to, as closely as possible, right? I'm not, that in-person thing is, you can't 100% replicate it, but to be able to bring that experience as much as possible online was what we tried to do here. And that, just comes with the subscription model and the ability to unlock the ability for people to openly communicate with each other without any sort of restrictions, or, we all know the things that you're not supposed to be doing on some of the other marketplaces and stuff, around sharing, contact information, things of that nature. So yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of the same stuff where, we're continuously getting feedback and building features that our community is asking for. And it is interesting to see the different types of cards that ebb and flow. I mean, in the sports card world, it can be very dependent on the player's performance that week or that night, or an injury that sends their prices plummeting. I mean, it can get a little bit crazy with a player's real-time performance when you're dealing with the modern cards of current players. It's a little bit different when you're talking about like Hall of Famers whose careers have been written and things of that nature. And again, with Pokemon and some of this other stuff, I mean, they're the baseline is probably a little bit more consistent with the types of pricing variations that you see. So I mean, for us, it can be a lot of peaks and valleys with what sport is in season, what player is hot that week, and you'll see a lot of cards move during those moments.
And what have you seen kind of being the hot items with the collectibles this year, as far as, did any trades make anybody soar? Did, things like what stood out this year so far?
Yeah, the big card, I mean, it's case hits. I think we're all hearing about the downtowns, the uptowns, the kabooms, and, all these different kinds of case hits for these iconic players. These are the cards that are getting big money. That people are trying to buy, to not only for their own personal collections, but to include as chase hits in some of these repacks as well. So, those are a lot of the hot items that we see that have no problem moving in the marketplace, right? They almost can't keep on the shelf. So, you see a lot of, people paying premiums for those types of cards. Probably won't see as many trades for them, mainly because they're very liquid, right? So trading can often come into play when, maybe it's just kind of collector trying to find some sort of deal that works. I have some cards that I'm really not that passionate about, but you are, and you have some cards that you're not that passionate about, but I am. And, so we try to find, some sort of arrangement, either it be just cards for cards, or cards and maybe adding cash on either side to try to close the deal. So, I mean, it's fun. Every day is different in the hobby for everybody. And, it's just a lot of fun to watch.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it's true. It's just it's great to see too, as the industry's just been growing, and just you see some of these turnouts and some of these sales. I mean, as far as you could, any average person, basically, even if they're not tuned into collectibles, you hear stories from the National, from Fanatics Fest, these large trade shows happening, throughout the United States. Sean, you want to tell us maybe a little bit about some of the shows and internationally, just some of the events that go on there? What's the kind of reception that you've been seeing over the last couple of years internationally with collectibles?
Yeah, so just as like a quick example, I'd went to a little card show in Edinburgh. It's roughly about this time of year. This was 2 years ago. And the room we had for that card show was maybe no more than like 200 or 300 people. This year, they moved venue to it's more sort of like a gig venue, so like a music concert venue, like a hall in there in Glasgow. And they managed to get a couple thousand people. And next year, they've already booked the venue for a stadium. And they're now moving to a conference room, or several conference rooms, in a stadium here in Scotland. And that's only over the space of a couple of years. That's one particular show. We've seen numerous other shows announced since. I think it's been proven there's a demand there. And Scotland is, a very small country with only 5 million people. And even up here, we have a bunch of collectors that will move all around the UK. They'll go to shows abroad. They'll go to shows in Europe. They'll come over to the States for shows. Myself and a few friends, we're going down to Cardiff in Wales at the end of September for a different card game from Pokemon. It's called Lorcana, which is a Disney card game. It's their own take on trading cards. And it's just absolutely insane. We went down to Birmingham last year, which is in the middle of England, for an event down there as well. And the amount of these events, not only sort of competitive events, but trade shows, hobby shows, and kind of coming back to what we've been talking about here, in terms of the reliability of trades. When you sell something, how do you know that your item is going to get safely to the location that you're sending it to? All these shows allow enthusiasts to interact with each other, they allow them to do these transactions in person. So they know fine well that when they hand over their PSA 10 Charizard that's worth however much, they know that it's there, they know that it's safe, that transaction's in person. They can be, rest assured that it's not going to get lost in the mail, it's not going to go missing. What happens if it turns up at the buyer, but they're claiming that it didn't arrive or something else was sent? There's so many different variables that, and I've experienced it myself whenever I've sold a card. And for the most part, 9 times out of 10, everything will go smoothly. But being at one of these shows, it allows you to just operate on a totally different level. You can go on with a totally different state of mind, and it's just a lot more comfortable for people like myself when it does come time to maybe you want to collect a different thing, and there's a few things that you'd be quite happy to part from your collection in order to achieve that goal. And those are the places now where you'll do that, in my opinion.
It's true. Yep. I know it's as far as, purchasing in person, it's just easy to kind of see exactly what it is. But some things also, you still, sometimes you worry about the authenticity of it, but buying a graded card, I think it just kind of takes away a lot of those fears and some of those doubts. Internationally, what would you say as far as at these shows? I know, are they just strictly Pokemon, or are they also sports as well? And who are the biggest sports people that are being collected over there? Is Wemby in the NBA a big one? As far as being from Europe, just kind of who do you see it kind of lighting up the shows?
So the great thing about the shows that I've been to recently is it's now, Pokemon was definitely, at least over here in the UK, it was a big one. They started off as, not Pokemon specific shows, but a large part of the market there was Pokemon related. We're now seeing a lot of tops. There's a lot of tops over here. Tops tend to have like their own stall and things. We're seeing a lot of stickers as well. So soccer stickers, basketball stickers are now a thing. American football stickers are now a thing, and football cards and football slabs and everything. And I think it's just coming with the expansion where we're going to these bigger venues all of a sudden. It's no longer this tiny little room in Edinburgh. It's massive conference rooms filled with thousands of people. And like myself, although Pokemon is obviously a big interest for myself, I collect Lorcana, which is also a Disney card game. I'm quite interested in looking at various other things like Magic the Gathering, which is, again, huge. They have so many different collaborations. They have a Marvel one that's coming up very soon this year. And for someone that's never played Magic the Gathering, for me, that piques my interest, to say the least. So that's something that, I'd be potentially interested in. And that's the beauty of these card shows. There are just so many options. One of my friends that was with us, the recent show in Glasgow, they were going for some Magic cards. And I think it was only 3 or 4 cards they were looking for their deck, and they were able to pick them up there. There's just so much choice. With Lorcana, there were some of the artists that designed the art from the cards that were there, so you could get some of your cards signed. And yeah, it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's great. It's just fun to hear all the different, types of collectibles that are just coming, basically full force over the last couple of years. Maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago, I recall, physical cards, figurines, as far as like starting lineups and bobbleheads. These are just some of the different items that were out there. Maybe bottle caps. But basically, like that was it. It's like now with just the gaming, the gamification of things. Which brings me to something that really got me into digital collectibles with NBA Top Shot. It's basically just like video highlights from your favorite NBA players. And NFL All Day is the same thing for football. It's just highlight video reels, and they're minted. They're easy to purchase, just straight through the website, which is how I go back some years with Austin. I know you were a big collector as well. And as far as just being, at the forefront for a lot of the NBA Top Shot stuff over the years, you want to just tell us a little bit about those digital collectibles, and is that something that you're still into, and you just, your appreciation for those communities, and what experience you have with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating just to be a part of those early days. I think you mentioned like that 2020, 2021, I guess across the board in collectibles, but especially in the digital collectible space, which, for the most part didn't exist essentially before then. So to be a part of that, like wild ride, was very interesting, very entertaining. But no, I I still watch very closely, the space, digital collectible space, and NBA Top Shot, of course, in particular. I'll always have a soft spot having, been involved. But it's interesting to kind of grow up in the physical space and spend some time in the digital space, and now be back in the physical space, because there's some times where I'm like, I'm just trying to look for maybe secondary market data. And I kind of feel like I was spoiled. I'm like, I used to be able to just check this on the blockchain and it was done in like 5 seconds. But now I gotta, put all these, like, I'm on eBay, I'm on 130 point, I'm all over the place trying to track this down, and like, I think it was mentioned, even just you don't have to worry about the security part necessarily if what you're getting is what they say you're going to get, just because it's all just authentic and verified through the blockchain. Those, to me, it's just it's so compelling. Those, like, the value prop of digital collectibles, like the problems that those solve. So I'm just excited to see what the future has in store for digital. And it's funny now that I'm like back in the physical world. I didn't realize like how much, like, there was stuff like that I was missing when I was just dealing with digital. So I think maybe the happy situation, I guess, for everything but my wallet is to be in both.
Yeah, it's true.
There's like, I can put like a graded, like, Slam magazine just on my wall, and it's like equal parts like art, and it's also like a collectible. Like, I've got this like old, like, Kobe Bryant cover, like, graded. So it's kind of like, it's an investment in a collectible, but it's also art that I can just stick on the wall of my office and it looks cool. So to sort of get that from the physical world, but then, we talked about, like, the dopamine, to be able to move fast. I just watched somebody get their career high. I want to go buy something and have it instantly. And, like, to be able to do that digitally is so compelling. Because, maybe I want to buy it and sell it in a couple hours. Like, we're all degenerates, right? Being exposed into the digital world, I think, makes that sort of activity, like, easier, which I think is a really compelling part of it. So it's fun to be in both worlds and sort of have that context, personally, for me.
Absolutely. And talking just about, like we said, the purchasing on the blockchain, built on the Flow blockchain. And that's also something that now is accepted over at Beezie. Andrea, you want to tell us a little bit about what the behind, the blockchain, and behind some of the payment forms and things that are accepted, through the site, and what's coming up with that?
Yeah, we're built on Flow. They've been a great partner. Obviously, there's a ton of incredible IP on that chain, whether we're talking about Disney or NBA, NFL, Ticketmaster. They've truly been at the forefront of consumer crypto since before that became a term or a meta on the timeline. One of the pieces, and Austin, when you were just talking, I started thinking, I think one of the really interesting benefits of being on chain is the ability to tell the story of your collectible. Right. So if I bought a specific slab from, a collector that is widely known, there's a story to tell through that. I think we saw that in, the last, like, NFT cycle, when you were talking about Top Shot, where if you bought something that Pranksy or one of those OGs had originally minted, there's a story to tell. And when you're able to verify that story because of an on-chain footprint, that makes it even more interesting. And I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to see a lot more physical collectibles on chain in the way that Beezie's doing it. I think Flow, as a partner, also believes that. I talked with the Top Shot team about that as well. I think there's just going to continue to be a blend, and it will become more and more seamless for collectibles, whether we're talking about digital, physical, or a combination of the two. With Beezie, for the last 6 months, we've really had Web3 as our playground, and so you weren't able to access our platform if you weren't crypto native. We were able to get great product feedback. It's sort of, we're a Web3 native team, so it's the space that we were really comfortable in. 2 weeks ago, we just turned on Web2 payments, which is really exciting because now we can tap into a much broader market. So you can come on the site now and sign up with your email, pay with your credit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay. We'll be integrating an off-ramp into Venmo soon. So we've got a lot coming up that, again, abstracts the blockchain on the parts where it might feel like it's added friction, and then really highlights the blockchain and the parts that make it interesting and give you a story to tell.
That's true. That's a great. I mean, it's just so accessible, and with the blockchain, it's just great that something I've always been interested in is seeing the transaction history, where sometimes with collectibles, you really don't, have a clue if you find something or where it came from, where it was. But something with the digital aspect, you could always see that footprint. You kind of could see where a collectible moves from, one user to another. Just basically see how it was purchased or was it pulled out of a pack. Just to have that transparency is something that's really cool with the blockchain capabilities. Is that something with Beezie that, like, for the future, do you see as far as like a roadmap or what you guys are looking to do, within the next year or two, anything that is being added to the platform or possibilities of what could happen?
So much. So, I mean, this could be
I know.
a whole other show if I'm sure with all of us, if we start talking about roadmap items, forget about it.
Yeah.
For us, it's really bringing more people on chain without force feeding it to them and introducing some of the benefits. It's been really amazing to watch Web3 collectors kind of tap back into their Pokemon roots, and become collectors again in that way. And, we have people that start out with the claw and then they're hunting on the marketplace. And then a couple weeks later, they're redeeming the physicals from our vault and posting it on their socials. Like, thanks, Beezie, for the package. That makes me so happy. I think that that's sort of the perfect world. For me, obviously, I'm a female CEO, I'm a woman. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is when you really look at the data around blind boxes and claw machines and gotchas, the primary driver and buyer of these activations in real life is women, right? When you're looking at the content on TikTok around unboxing, whether it's Labubus or Crybabies or something else, it's females. So what I'm excited is to create these sort of like female leaning activations that target that real collector and buyer and consumer in the real world and kind of introduce them to the mechanic on chain as well. I think that'll be a ton of fun.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm excited to see what comes up with Beezie. It's just, I know the early stages of a lot of what you guys have. I know you've obviously been at work for a while, I'm sure, to get it to where it's at, just because, it seems like it was a, complex site to get up and working and running, just to have, as it has so many, functionalities to it. So I'm sure the hard work, is still to come, but, definitely.
Feels like it's taken a few lifetimes to get here. When you talk about just like the vaulting partnerships, the AI authentication partnerships, bringing all the inventory in, it's, the build, the tech build, the modifications along the way. It's been the most challenging and most gratifying thing of my entire career, I can say.
Yeah, listen, it's a show. I mean, I come from a little bit of a theater background. I mean, you know how long rehearsals are, dance steps, choreography. You're opening up for one night, and that's it. The show could close the next night. I mean, the time you put in doesn't necessarily get, always is recognized by the audience. But sometimes when you're up there on stage, you go, "Oh, finally opening night," and that's it. We got the show going. But that's great. And Mark, if you want to tell us a little bit about just some collector stories or just some of those fun, basically if you heard from what collectors have purchased or what they have said about being on MyCardPost that just, really made you happy, or just glad to hear about the experience from the collectors.
Yeah, I think it comes down to relationships and the friendships that people are making through the platform. I mean, being able to, freely connect with each other and communicate with each other and without restrictions has really enabled a lot of people to get to know each other virtually, across the country. And then when you go to the National or Fanatics, and it's like, then you meet in person. And I think those full circle moments are what really makes, this whole hobby fun in general. And being able to play a role in helping foster friendships and relationships offline, not just online virtually, but to see people connect and meet up and go to dinner and stuff after doing 10, 15, 20 deals with each other online and just talking endlessly about cards. It's really cool. I mean, that's what this is all about is, it's a hobby we want to share in the stories. We want to talk about the cards that we have, how we got them. We want to hear other people's stories. We want to share stories together about deals that we do amongst ourselves or each other. And I think those are the moments. I mean, really just hearing about the fathers and the sons that are doing it together online, where they're, helping their kids achieve some sort of set or rainbow or whatever they're chasing. And, those stories are really what make me excited to hear on a daily basis around just, the joy that parents are seeing through their kids participating in a hobby that they love as well. And then seeing their kids, also love and enjoy it. It's that's pretty special.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love hearing that. As for me, as I've always collected, obviously, things that I enjoyed. It doesn't have to necessarily be just for profit. It doesn't have to be okay. I can't wait to get something to sell it. But I think that's what a lot of the five of us here on the podcast can relate to. It's that there's an attachment. Or there's more of a story or an experience to why you collect these things. It's not just flipping and making a profit out of it, but these stories and just the communities that come together through this, is what brought us all here today. So I just appreciate everybody here today. Thank you so much for coming on. Really, just able to spread the word on all these different collectibles out there. We're going to be posting this, and hope everybody follows the great communities here. Check it all out. Guys, I wouldn't bring anybody on here if it was something that I don't stand behind, because I think it's just really cool stuff that everyone here is talking about. The content that they put out with Sean, Austin, great, great stuff as always with collecting, and Slam, just an exciting future. Beezie, definitely one of the newest on the platform to bring something different, and I just excited to see where this goes. And Mark with MyCardPost, just love the community factor and how you have the collectors on there just collecting and making it happen for themselves. It's just real great being the wrangler over there and getting everybody together and keeping that community strong. So thank you all, guys. I appreciate it for coming on What Do You Collect. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch soon. Thank you, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Have a good one.
What do you collect? Show me your collection. You're my one of one. You're my kind of obsession. My big break, my case hit. Open up and show me what's hidden within. What do you collect? Oh, what do you collect? Ooh. Flipping through your comics, hand-drawn heroes in hand, Pokemon, magic, be friends from across the land, created gem slabs, she's my number 10. Tell me all your stories, I'll start you up again. Secrets in your binder, treasures in your room, every little sticker, every little cartoon. What do you collect? Show me your collection. You're my one of one, you're my kind of obsession. My big break, my case hit. Open up and show me what's hidden within. What do you collect? Oh, what do you collect?